Alright, so I'm going to make a video here about pulling a transmission on a Kawasaki KRX. You can see I already have the suspension stripped off, the hub off, arms off. We're going to go in to start taking stuff out of there, and hopefully I'll show a diagram or, a kind of method for getting the trans out. What happened with mine, I had it rebuilt by a dealership, and they did a great job, but the axle didn't seat all the way in on the passenger side. And I drove it for 2 different rides to Hatfield and had no issues. Well, I had some issues, but they weren't bad. Real squirrely because it wasn't getting power to the right side. I didn't notice the axle was out until I was doing something, jacking up the side-by-side, and the axle was out and it cracked the inner spool gear right there. I don't know if you can see that very well. So unfortunately, this spool gear is, there you go, only a few months old, if maybe 3 months old, and the suspension's got to come all the way out, or the transmission, I mean. So I'm saying that because the axles popped right out because they were freshly greased. I know that's not common. It's just what happened with me. The axles are out. It took one tug. Both popped out. But I got to replace that spool gear. So stripped both sides, pulled the axles out. We're going to see what it takes to get this transmission out. And hopefully just change that spool gear. The final drive, 46 tooth, I think. So we're going to pull the clutch cover, secondary and primary clutch, intake tube, and then some transmission mounts, and see if we can wiggle it out and split the case. But that's the plan. Just wanted to show you a video of why I'm doing this, and hopefully we get farther in, and I can show you something to help you out, because there's no videos on YouTube. So stick around. Maybe this works. All right, we're making a little bit of progress. So obviously all the 10mm bolts to hold the outside clutch cover, a 19mm reverse thread to pull the secondary clutch after you spread it and take the belt off, and then a 24mm regular thread to take off the primary. We're gonna get this disconnected from that tube up there, and we'll move on. All right, just wanted to jump in here. I forgot to film it while it was on, but I removed the clutch cover, inside clutch cover. It had 5 10mm bolts. They're this long. They were sitting right in there. And then you can see it had Phillips head, or JIS screws. There were 3 of them. 1, 2, and I believe there was one up top. I don't see it right now. And then you had this CVT sensor is unplugged. And on the back side, you just had some wire, like hold down things. Then you had the 2 hose clamps up top there, and you were able to pop this off. So pretty straightforward. One tip is to use JIS screwdrivers. These are Vessel, and they really fit these, what look like Phillips head screws, really good. So you can see how well that holds. If you're taking apart a machine, invest in good Japanese screwdrivers. These are JIS by Vessel, and they work really good on these screws. And you can see it holds it with such a good grip that they come out no problem. So just wanted to film that. Gonna get back to working. All right, so we got the rear clutch cover off. There's that tube there and that tube there. 2 7mm hose clamp bolts, and I think we're gonna have to take this intake off, and we'll be in the area of our transmission. So gonna keep working. I wish I would have done this when the buggy was clean, but it's too cold now, and I'm not waiting until spring. So I'm gonna keep working. All right, so next thing we're doing is taking off this intake tube. There's a screw right there, up at there. There's a screw right there. They're Phillips head. They look like Phillips head screws, but they're Japanese industrial standard, and they're big. So get a good set of Vessel screwdrivers. You got one there and one there, a hose clamp there, and a hose clamp. You see this hose clamp right there? It looks easy. Do the one behind it. It's just easy to get to, and you can leave that in one piece. You should be able to just take this whole tube out. And now we're gonna go for the intake box, or whatever that is, and keep working. Okay, to remove this intake box, you have one 12mm bolt on the clutch side. You have a 5mm Allen clamp. That one on the left there is Allen key. And then on the passenger side, you have two 12mm bolts. One right there behind that hose, and one up there. And you also have a 5mm clamp. Oh, you can't see it, right behind that hose. Right there. So I'm gonna loosen that, and this intake box should come off. Okay, so now this box is loose and ready to come out. You have to take this little cover. It looks like it covers a map sensor. Two little JIS screws and an easy undo plug. Don't lose the screws. Again, use JIS screwdrivers and it'll come right out. Not a big deal. I might unplug that and try and loop the wiring back that way to give me more room to work with, because now I undid this. This is like a hold down lever thing. So I'm probably just going to take the whole thing that way, and the box should come out. All right, so I'm gently wrestling this box out. I left those wires plugged in because they didn't come out easy. I think I forgot a hose. Yeah, you can see I forgot a hose on that box right there. So we'll figure out how to undo that. Maybe up there. Maybe on the box itself, I'm not sure. And get that hose off there. Alright, so the last clip I was telling you to take the hose off that end. Don't. It's a pain in the ass. You can't reach it. The other end just pops off the back of the airbox. On that tube right there. So it's just hanging there. Pop that tube off. There wasn't even a hose clamp on my end. So don't do that way. Just pop it off the back. I'm done for the night. But I did want to mention before I forget, I loosened that shifter, but I marked it so I know the exact way it's supposed to go. So hopefully tomorrow or the next day we can start pulling the trans bolts and get everything out of there and split the case. So stay tuned. All right, so we're back the second day, taking this transmission out. I'm just doing a couple hours after work each day, so it's not that bad. I think we're gonna do next is pull this shifter bracket off. There's two bolts, both look like 12mm. We're gonna pull that off. I marked the shifter line and loosened that bolt, so hopefully it comes off of there. And then I think we're gonna take that hose that's in there out of that loop, and this looks like a vent line. We'll probably take the vent line off. So I'm gonna do that, and then just start trying to figure out what else needs to come out. It looks like we got a bolt there, but I'm not gonna get to that yet. So start with the easy things and keep working forward. Okay, so we got that hose out of there. You see that hose is free. We pulled this vent line off. You can see it's right here. Got the shifter off right there and right there. And we put the bolt back in there so we don't lose it. Next, I think we're gonna try and move this drive shaft forward. To do that, we're gonna pull up this carrier bearing mount right here. We're gonna take that bolt, I think it's a 12, and that bolt, I think it's a 12. And hopefully we can scoot this whole drive shaft forward. And then we're getting pretty close. So I'm gonna do that real quick. All right, so I was able to take those two bolts off. They're bolts and nuts, 12 mil wrench on the back side, and 12 mil socket and impact gun. Take that right off. Now you should be able to come down here and I thought you could be able to move the drive shaft. Oh yeah, you can. Get something in there, pry against it, and it'll open up, pushing that whole drive shaft back. Probably not the best place to push on it, but I'm gonna try and get that back farther so it's disconnected from the trans. And I'll be right back with you. Okay, quick update. I took the front carrier bearing bracket off. Again, two 12s. This time they were around the corner of that. All right, best I could tell, all we got left is some transmission bolts, or the transmission mount bolts on the other side. So I ran a strap from there, the shock point, through underneath the coolant intake to hold the engine up. Hopefully that works. Then we're gonna probably go on the other side, pull these two bolts on from the other side. And then we'll work on the back, and we'll try and get this out of here. All right, we're on the passenger side now. Got that one bolt with the sockets on, and there's another one behind this line right here. So I'm gonna try and take off this 10 and see if it gives us enough room to get the other bolt out. All right, so I was able to get that 10 out of there, wiggle the cooling pipe enough, and split that, I don't know what line that is, out of the holder. I was able to use a 17 on a wobble to get both those bolts most of the way out. It looked like the train's dropped a little bit because it's out of that motor mount. So now I'm gonna try and do this side is a 17, and I'm gonna put a wrench on the other end, and then we'll see where we're at. All right, so I'm pretty sure I got it most of the way free. I was able to pull that bolt out and those two bolts out of the motor mounts. I used this pry bar on the bolt head down there, and now it looks loose. So now I'm gonna try and go to the other side and rotate it up and get it out. But that bolt was the rear bolt, and these two were the front motor mount bolts. So I ended up not taking that motor mount off yet. I can't decide. I got one bolt out of it. There doesn't need to be a wrench on the backside. It's welded. I don't know. So I'm gonna try and lift it up, I guess, and roll this way with it, and then get it off of that drive shaft down there. So I don't know. I'm gonna try that and see what happens. Okay, quick update. Transmission's completely loose, ready to come out. I need to make more of a gap on that drive shaft, so I just have a pry bar and I'm tapping on the U-joint down there. It's hard to see. Try and get some more space so that drive shaft will pop up. I also redid my strap to a much heavier strap. This one allows me to crank the engine up and get some pressure off of it so I can get that drive shaft out. So I'm gonna keep tapping that out, and hopefully once that pops out, we're home free. And just to manhandle the thing out of here. So I'm gonna keep working, and I'll be with you in the next clip. And then I ended up, had to loosen my hitch by taking out this control arm bolt. I pulled those two bolts behind the hitch right there to get the bracket off. So hopefully now it gives me a little bit more room, and I can start manhandling. Also, you have to undo this, I don't know if it's a gear position sensor or something right here. Gotta get that off because that goes down to a plug on that side. So I'll pull that off before I start messing with it. And hopefully pretty soon we can get that drive shaft most of the way out and start working this thing up and out. All right, it's very loose now. I had to take the lower passenger side rear control arm off, a radius rod, and there's a bolt right there that was hidden. So I'm gonna pop that out. I got my socket stuck, but that's just me being stupid. After that, the transmission should come out pretty easy. Just been a fight, you know what I mean? So hopefully I'll get this done real quick, and we'll be done with this project. All right, so it's starting to go. I was able to wedge the back of it up and stuck our soft hammer in there. Hopefully I just keep fighting it until we clear, until it's like rotated all the way up. It's heavy, I don't know. I don't have a way of doing this without lift or whatever, but it's heavy. You know, I'm breathing heavy, but whatever. Try and get this out, so I'm gonna keep working, but we're just rotating from there up that way. So hopefully this ends up at the bottom. We can slide the whole thing out is the plan. So I'm gonna keep working and hopefully get this out soon. All right, I ended up getting it pretty high off the thing, off the skid plate, and it's starting to turn, but I ended up putting another strap up here to like hold it up while I work it and just pry it. It seems to be going pretty well. We're almost to the point where we can kick it sideways to pull it out. So just wanted to show you the progress. And I had that strap. I told you I pulled that other bolt out from the other side that was in the case, but it's about ready to come out. So hopefully pretty soon we'll have this out, and I can show you changing the gear and putting it back in. So stay tuned. All right. So I was fucking around with it for a long time. Couldn't get it out. Accidentally broke this thermostat housing that goes on the side of the engine. You should just take that off and not break it. I was being stupid. I broke it. Engine seems fine, but I have to bleed the cooling system and get new housing. But once you do that, you can rotate it. The drive shaft's down, lift up, and it's freaking out right now. So it's done. What a pain in the ass. Take your time. Don't be stupid, and hopefully it comes out better than me without breaking the thermostat housing. So anyway, gonna do that. I guess I'll change the thermostat while I'm in here. And yeah. Anyway, trans is out. I'll show a video of the spool gear once I get the case split, but I'm done for today. I'll pull this out, put it on a workbench, and yeah, wrap up. So there you go. Hope that helps. It was a pain in the ass. I did run an extra strap underneath. Try and help lift it, but it's such a tight fit. I don't understand why it's so hard. Anyway, I'll get this out and show you next video. All right, so I got the trans out. Drained the fluid as much as I could. Should have done that before I pulled it, but whatever. I think we're gonna take off this little, I think it's an actuator or shift the gear, maybe. I don't know, gear indicator. That's 8. Let's pull that sensor out, and then we're gonna pull. This is the bolt that was already out when we took it out to get it out of the buggy. 14. I think we have some 12s up here as well. So we're just going to go around and try and split this case. And we'll look at the spool gear. So stay tuned. Okay, so we got all the bolts out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 14s. And what, 12 millimeter bolts? I think I can leave that in. I tried taking it out. It doesn't look like it leads to anything. All the bolts are out. So we'll try to split it and see what happens. Looking for good places. Should have ears on it to pry against so you don't crack the case. I'm just going to slowly try and pop it up. And we'll see what we're working with. Alright, so that case just pops right off. I was able to leave that sensor in. Didn't seem to hurt anything. Yeah, looks super clean. Like I said, this is the only thing that broke was that spool gear. So I try to figure out how to get that out of there. I don't know how it's tight. It might just be retained with this. Oh, there's a bearing. Gotta figure out where that goes. It might be pretty critical. So figure where that goes. Looks like there's a spring right here. And I'll look over the rest of it. But I'm trying not to take this whole thing apart. You know, all I gotta do is change this gear. So we'll figure it out and keep it going. All the bearings look good. Everything looks good. So yeah, we'll clean it up, get that gear out of there, clean up our mess, and see how it goes. Okay, so I think to remove this gear, I just have to take off these small bolts right here, 4 of those, and this retaining thing should come out. So it looks like a 10. No, it's actually an 8. So I'll pull these bolts and hopefully that gear will come right out. Okay, so that's all it was to remove that gear. 4 8mm bolts. Take this little retaining plate off, and our gear is free. So I end up pulling the bearings off of these and reusing them because I know they're good. You see, everything's very clean because, like I said, it only has a couple 100 miles on it since it was rebuilt. The fluid's clean, so yeah. I'm probably not going to show you much more at this point. Just I'm going to change the bearings to the new gear and throw it back together. But I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, I did just want to say one last thing. This little ball that was in there sits on this spring. It's in the shift. It's like an external shift detent. And so it's on the case half you removed right behind that sensor. So that's a 14mm bolt. It has a spring inside of it. And then the detent sits there. And this sits against the shaft like that. So we're just going to put this back in after the case half is back on. But you can see that's where that detent goes, and there's a spring in there, and it fits perfectly. So just wanted to show you where that came from, because mine I didn't take out before I split the case, so it was sitting down at the bottom. So maybe I'll do a video after I get this back together, maybe not. If either way, thanks for watching. Okay, I just want to do a quick video about putting the bearings on the spool gear. You have this big OD bearing with that part number. You have the smaller OD bearing with this part number right there. Both Kawasaki genuine parts. You can see one is bigger than the other. So the big bearing is going to go on the short end of the gear. So you can see this is the short end, and that's the long end. Okay, and I had this in the freezer to cool it down. The bearings are room temperature, so it should drop right over. So long, a big bearing, short side, small bearing, long side. Okay, so I'm gonna press these together. It should drop right in. Like I said, big bearing, numbers out, how it came off on the short side, and should drop right in with the press. So I'm gonna do this real quick, and I'll be back with you. All right, so I got that one pressed on. Make sure it bottoms out on the shoulder there. Like I said, big bearing on the short side, small bearing on the long side. If you put it together wrong, your gears aren't going to mesh. Ask me how I know, but it drops in real easy if you have it. If you have the gear really cold and the bearings room temp. So I'll flip it over and do the other side. Okay, so I got both bearings on. Made sure they both bottomed out on the shoulders on the gear, and make sure they both spin free with no issue. And we'll let this whole thing come up to room temp, and tonight we'll put the gear assembly back together. But again, I want to make sure you have the right bearing on the right side, because it will go on backwards. Your gear won't line up. So that short side is the bigger bearing. See how it's closer to the gear than this side? The long side's the smaller bearing. And it sits down in the transmission case like that. And this is the top side, the case you pull off. All right, that's all for now. Tonight we'll put this together, and this might be the end of the video. So we'll do one more clip of it together and sealed up, and we'll start reassembling. All right, so I got the spool gear back in. You just have to tap it down until it seats that bearing in the case. I used 2 hammers, one kind of right there to tap down on that side. You just tap it around, make sure it seats all the way in there. Then we can put a retaining plate back on. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit, but that should clip right over. And like I said, if you put the wrong bearing on the wrong side like I did, it's not gonna fit, it's gonna stick up. So make sure you get this plate back on. We'll put these 8mm bolts back in, and we'll run some silicone around and seal this up. But I think it's going to do it for this video. Basically, we're going to put this side of the case on. We're going to put our gear indicator or a gear detent in on this side of the case, on the other side of the case. And we're going to start putting the transmission back in. There's not much more I can show you. If this was helpful, leave a comment. I think this is the first video on YouTube I've seen of taking out a transmission on a KRX. So I hope it helps somebody out there. And thanks for watching.